Welcome everybody to today's panel discussion on powering Massachusetts' clean energy future. My name is Rick Harrington. I am the Vice President of Business Development for Thrive Home. We are the new kid on the block. We came out of the ashes of the SunPower failures, and the network has stuck together and we have created a new company. We went live on Monday. So we are up and running. We are focused on solar, a lot like some of us in here on the resi side of solar. But we're going to be a home electrification outfit. We will be onboarding EV chargers. We're going to be bringing on tankless hot water heaters, mini splits, HVAC, things like that. So we're going to focus more on the home electrification and upgrading homes so they're more efficient and move them slowly away from using fossil fuels. So I'm going to start out by introducing the panel today in no particular order. I'm going to start with Rick Smith. He's the Vice President of Business Development at Vicinity Energy. Vicinity Energy is a leader in district energy solutions. They provide powerful energy solutions to decarbonize cities and commercial buildings by providing heating, cooling, sterilization, and humidification, while also paving a way to achieving the city's sustainability goals. Vicinity accomplishes this through industrial-scale electric boilers, heat pump complexes, and thermal storage. They are the first in the US to introduce carbon-free e-steam to rapidly decarbonize commercial buildings. Next, I'm going to go to James. We have James, is it Manzer?
That's it.
James Manzer. He's the Regional Vice President for Revision Energy. Revision is a very mission-driven company, employee-owned. I know a couple of your employees as well. And they offer offering services throughout northern New England. And they're guided by their mission and their core values. And they prioritize people over profit, community over competition, and sustainable growth over rapid expansion, all while building a better world through solar power. Next on my list is Jen Daloisio, Senior Vice President of Corporate Operations at FirstLight. FirstLight is a leading clean power producer, developer, and energy storage company serving North America. They specialize in hybrid solutions that pair hydroelectric, pumped hydro storage, utility-scale solar, and large-scale battery and wind power assets. FirstLight's on a mission to accelerate the decarbonization of the electric grid by supporting the development, operation, and integration of renewable energy and storage to meet the world's growing clean energy needs and deliver an electric system that is clean, reliable, affordable, and equitable. Next, I have Meghan Shaw. Meghan is the Outreach Director for Cambridge Energy Alliance. Cambridge Energy Alliance's goal is to reduce energy use in the city of Cambridge's buildings by promoting the adoption of energy-efficient technologies and behaviors. They offer price stability, they support clean and renewable energy, and to date, they have saved Cambridge residents over $36 million since the program began. And then lastly down here, I have Simon Zhang. Simon Zhang is the founder and CEO of REON Technologies. They provide intelligent, reliable, and accessible energy storage and microgrid solutions aiming to expedite the adoption of renewable energy and promote grid resilience. And they aim to lead a global transformation in energy management by accelerating the adoption of technologies that empower businesses and communities to thrive. So, Simon, my first question is going to be for you. I was unable to go up to see you and meet you at the opening ceremonies at BU the other day, and I'm really intrigued. I saw it. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your technology, how it works, how it would benefit a homeowner or a community, and things like that? Because I saw like a white box.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's see if that works. Hello? You can hear us, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Rick. So I've been in the battery business for over a decade. So throughout, of course, I was in data center, critical power, backup power business at Schneider Electric. But what I saw throughout my career is batteries are overly complicated. So there's a lot of components to it as well. And as we're adding more needs to it, so not only a backup power, People need solar integration. People need to provide resiliency. People need to save electrical bills, having energy management to it, right? Managing the batteries dynamically to maximize the benefit of a battery. So there's a lot of needs to it. How do we make it simple for people to adopt? Because a lot of times people just have to buy an inverter from this guy, battery from another guy, and then solar module. They have to piece them together, make sure they work. There's a lot of engineering cost to it. There's a lot of installation cost. So all those things add up to be the cost and become a barrier for people to adopt renewable energy. So what we saw this as a need. How do we simplify it, make it simple? So the box you saw at the opening day, which is our first product to market. It's very small, so we're targeting small, medium customers, of course. So that's a generator size battery storage system, but it actually has solar modules, inverters, energy management batteries all integrated in one box. So it's plug and play all in one system that we believe this can help us to introduce a battery in a very easy to use, user-friendly way, so people can feel more comfortable to use it. So it's already a complicated world, so this has to be simple enough, plug and play, and make it renewable, so easy to use. So that's our logic.
Perfect. So just so I understand and the audience understands a little better, it's a self-charging unit. As you said, it has solar panels inside of it?
No. Solar panels outside.
Outside, okay.
The solar integration module, solar inverters is built inside.
Okay.
But any solar panels can just plug into the box and start getting the solar power.
Okay, so if somebody has residential solar already in the house and it wasn't installed with storage, they can use REON Technologies battery and plug it in, and so it's that simple. That simple, that diverse.
But also, people deploy solar on a canopy, for example, on a carport, or even on the ground, right? So we have even provide flexible solar panels that people can deploy for disaster relief, put on top of a trailer, put on top of a container, for example, in construction site. So those are the solars that have unique, they don't have unique plugs. They all have standard MC4 plugs that they all can plug in to our unit and start charging the batteries right away. So that's the logic behind how do we make it simple. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
You don't buy a separate inverter for the solar.
Yeah, what was that?
You don't have to buy a separate inverter for the solar.
You don't, but what if there is already an inverter on the solar system?
That's fine too. That's fine too. Yeah. So then you can integrate on the AC side instead of DC side. Yeah. So we have a DC hybrid inverter building. Yeah.
Cool. And like how many hours of is it a whole home backup?
We can back up a home for a day.
Okay.
But we can also back up events like a concert or movie production or disaster relief. Actually, we have been doing that for medical facilities, water pumps, or construction sites for all those drills, soil, all this bigger power-hungry tools. So we can power all this work, at least one day of work. So that's why we choose that size. Yeah.
Perfect. So how long does it take to recharge itself?
About 2 hours. The different charging options we provide. You can charge by plugging on the plug on the wall. You can charge by solar. You can also charge by generators. So you can create a microgrid solution right away by just plugging all those things, whatever you have. Then it has an internal building intelligence platform to decide when to use solar, when to use battery, when to use generators, depending on your priority. So that can automatically figure it out for you. So that's all building.
That's great. So how is the adoption of that system going in terms of like getting out there and gaining market share for yourself?
We just soft launched it a few months back, but we'll be introducing it to the world, actually powering a lot of events locally in Boston area for over 20 events. We're going to trade shows. People don't know this product exists, right? Still, believe me or not, so people ask me, this thing doesn't really have smoke, really? Are you sure? Mm-hmm. So they still think it's a generator. They don't know how clean this is and how quiet this is. Don't believe it. But we've been selling a lot of units already globally. We've been selling in 4 countries over. US is our main market. We also have Singapore operations, so I'm selling to Malaysia for water treatments. We have Saudi customers for remote operation off-grid. So we have Singapore sites as well for construction. So it's a lot of use cases actually.
So the big question is, how much does this unit cost? That's probably what people want to know. Is that a barrier of entry for you, or?
No, we made it very cost competitive, and also this thing qualified for ITC, the federal tax credit.
Oh, good.
So retail at $10,000.
Okay.
Yeah, but.
And then a $3,000 tax credit.
Correct.
So 7,000 net.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you. My next question, can you hand the microphone to Rick, please? My next question is for Rick. Rick, when I was looking at Vicinity, I didn't know much about you at the time. And so when I was doing my homework to prepare for this, the thing that really jumped out at me is you have this patent on this carbon-free e-stream system. So can you kind of explain to the audience what the e-stream system is and how it works? And this is a multifaceted question, okay? And I'm kind of curious, I heard you on the call about talking about the Charles River, okay, the other day. But is this technology available in other cities, other locations, or is it already operating in other locations throughout the country?
Yeah, all good questions, and thank you very much. Again, it's great to see all of our online viewers, and thanks for joining us today. So I guess it's first important for everybody to understand what district energy is, because a lot of folks just aren't aware of it. District energy is the centralized production of thermal energy. So it could be chilled water, it could be steam, it could be hot water. And here in underneath the streets of the city of Boston and Cambridge, we actually have 29 miles of pipe that provide steam into buildings, lab buildings and office buildings, hotels, offices, hospitals, all the major downtown hospitals. It provides them with heat, humidification, and some of the other things that you mentioned during the introduction. What's important to our customers in the cities that we support, including Cambridge and including Boston, is that we get to net zero. And so we, several years ago, set out not just a goal, but a mandate that we had to be net zero by 2050. And that while we're on the way, the way that we were going to get there was through electrification. We've been actually, if you look at our timeline, the district energy system that supports Cambridge and Boston, you can go back in history and see it going all the way back to the 1930s. It's just been a gradual evolution. And what you would see too is that we've been gradually decarbonizing that whole time, right? It started with coal, if you go back to the 1930s. Coal's been gone a long time now, and now it's been predominantly natural gas in recent years, and cogen. In fact, the largest cogeneration station in New England, making both electricity for the grid and then taking that waste heat and then repurposing it for the purposes of making steam. And now the question is, how do we get to zero, right? How do we get to the actual end of the goal line here? And what's pretty fantastic is that our team and the company that owns us, our investors, have been incredibly supportive of doing something that no other district energy system in the United States has done yet. And that's by actually taking that leap. And we've done that with something that we call e-steam. And what e-steam is it's a complete net zero product where we pull in renewable electricity into our plant, and we utilize electrode boilers, heat pumps, and thermal energy storage in order to be able to generate steam that then goes out to our customers. And what's important about that is that it's utilizing, for the most part, existing infrastructure. The pipes out in the street that are there, none of that has to be torn up. The equipment in buildings, none of that has to go away. Everything happens at the plant level. So just as the electric grid is getting more green and all of the off-takers are gaining from that, we are able to do the same thing at our level. We're doing this here in Boston and Cambridge because Boston and Cambridge are oftentimes the first all throughout the country for many things, right? And we're going to be the first too in greening the system. And we're seeing now district energy systems across the United States take the lead on this. And I would love to say that the United States is, we were first and we got there first, but it's actually a lot of this stuff's already being done in Europe. And so the technologies that we're employing, these aren't technologies that are new. These aren't technologies that aren't tested. These are technologies that already exist. They're not prototypes. They're out there today and working great. And so we're pulling them here into Boston and Cambridge first. Other cities that you go into that Vicinity supports, because we're the largest owner-operator district energy systems in the country. We got 19 of them. They're all going to be taking a similar lead in terms of decarbonizing, using heat pump technology, electro boiler technology, utilizing and doing all kinds of different things with it, using whether it's river water, whether it's using chilled water and pulling the heat from return water. It's all kinds of really very interesting stuff. But the important thing is that we're doing it, right? We're not talking about it. We're not contemplating it. We're not engineering it. We're doing it. And on Tuesday, we actually are cutting the ribbon on the very first electrode boiler delivering E-steam. And it's a 35 megawatt electric boiler, and 40 megawatt electric boiler, and it's the largest electrode boiler in North America that's going to be ready. And then we're going to have a heat pump ready to go here in 2028, a first heat pump complex. I think your other question was the river water and how that plays into it.
Yes.
So if you look at one of the common concerns you'll find amongst many with solar and wind, which solar and wind we need, right? We're going to be using that, is that the wind doesn't always blow, the sun doesn't always shine, but so what do? And when you look at the position of our dominant plant there over here in Kendall Square, it sits right on the Charles River. And what's in the Charles River other than a lot of water? There's a lot of heat. And folks from Boston would say, "What heat? What are you talking about? I wouldn't dive in there. It's too cold." But in fact, there's a lot of heat energy in there. And what we can do is we can circulate 35,000 gallons a minute of river water, pull heat from it without doing any damage to the river, any damage to the environment, and pull heat from that, and then utilize that using heat pump technology, compression technology, in order to ultimately deliver steam to our clients. So it's pretty amazing use of leveraging existing infrastructure and also utilizing the resources that we have around us in being able to produce something that is economically and technically viable for all of our customers.
Super cool. Now, one of these people on this panel, I think it might have been you, was talking about wind assets in South Dakota. Is that anybody on this panel on Friday? Was that you?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking about how the city is really investing in both how do we transform our buildings. We're in the Foundry in Cambridge right now. Like every single building in Cambridge needs to move away from fossil fuels, and obviously district energy is going to help with some of our larger buildings on that front. But we're also looking at how do we get more clean electricity to our residents and businesses, more than it's available currently on the grid. So wide variety of solutions, which with our community electricity program, we've been looking at, how do we get utility scale renewable electricity, to the residents and businesses here in Cambridge. And so, we're really shifting from sort of, let's do rooftop solar. We're still supporting folks in getting rooftop solar where appropriate, but we're a really dense city. There's only so many rooftops available that get enough sun. So we're really looking at, how do we go out and procure things outside of the region so that we can be surveying residents and businesses here with more clean electricity, to get to this net zero goal. Every resident, every small business is not going to be able to go out and procure new, clean, renewable electricity all on their own. So the city's kind of taking on that role through our community electricity aggregation program.
Super cool. So how are you going about driving adoption within the city, within the residents of the city, okay, of working with you and helping them offset their electric bills and costs?
Yeah, that's a great question. There's a couple of ways. So Cambridge Energy Alliance is just sort of a brand name that the city uses for a lot of our Office of Sustainability work, targeting programs at residents and businesses. So we have a wide variety of programs. We promote the Mass Save statewide energy efficiency program, kind of amplify that message. We work with local businesses who have national presence like Energy Sage to help people shop for rooftop solar. So we're always kind of promoting that out to our residents and businesses. We have an energy helpline, and we also have our Cambridge Community Electricity Program. And the Cambridge Community Electricity Program is probably the biggest bang for our buck in the sense that it's an opt-out program that's established through state law. So every electricity account in Cambridge is automatically opted into our program unless someone actively says, please don't opt me in. So as a community organizer, an opt-out program is amazing, right? I don't have to knock on every door saying, could you please join? I just have to say, tell me if you don't want to be part of it, which inertia is strong. So we have over 40,000 electricity accounts enrolled in the Cambridge Community Electricity Program. The city goes out and procures electricity supply contract for all of those residents and businesses that are enrolled. And the other thing that we're looking to do next is to procure utility scale renewables through virtual power purchase agreements to feed into that program as well. And that's really helping the city get to its net zero community goals. We have net zero goals for our municipal buildings, but we also have a net zero action plan for every single building in Cambridge, and getting 100% clean renewable electricity to every business and resident through our electricity aggregation program is really a way to kind of scale that beyond we want people to do energy efficiency in their buildings. We want people to look at solar. We want them to adopt heat pumps. But that's a little bit retail politics, right? So the community electricity program is a really much more of a wholesale way to bring that decarbonized energy into our community.
Great. So if it's an opt-out, like all of us in renewable think it's a no-brainer in most circumstances, right? But our customers, sometimes the light bulb takes a while for the light bulb to come on for them to realize that. So why would anybody ever opt out of something that was given to them in your program?
Well, I mean, if you're a really large building here in Cambridge and you're using a ton of electricity, you're probably better off going out to the market on your own and getting your own competitive electricity supply contracts. So we don't have currently very many large commercial customers as part of the program. There's, maybe 10 or something, 10 accounts, and then, some small businesses and to be honest, some residents, they see get a mailer in the mail from a competitive electricity supplier. Someone comes through their door, someone's tabling at their grocery store. They think maybe I get a better rate going through a competitive supplier. So, there are some people, they feel more comfortable getting basic service from Eversource. It seems familiar. I don't know, but we've been really lucky. We have had really competitive electricity supply contracts. Our last one was great in the sense that we had a very long 3-year contract right in the middle of the Ukraine crisis spiking. So our prices were like 10 cents a kilowatt hour when Eversource was advertising like 17 cents. So we've been able to provide a lot of price stability to the community, through these large scale, these long-term competitive supply contracts for our community members. I would say some of it's just people don't know, right? And so we do a lot. Cambridge Energy Alliance in the city does a lot of what we call just energy bill literacy. What's on your energy bill, right? People don't know that there's a difference between supply and distribution charges. They don't know what parts of their energy bill that they can lower. They're like, oh, my distribution charges, they're $20 a month more than they used to be, and it's like, sorry, that's not the portion of the bill that you can impact, but you can impact the supply portion, by signing up for community solar, by doing energy efficiency on your home, so we really try to do that basic literacy with our community members as well, because I think that is really part of helping people, adopt programs like community solar, look to add solar to their buildings, whether it's their home or business, and to really, adopt things like heat pumps and all these other things that we need to adopt in the future into these buildings. They have to kind of understand, where's my electricity and my energy for my building coming from? And then, where is it coming from? Is it coming from natural gas? Is it coming from a wind farm? So that there's just like a wide variety of programs that we have in the community so that we can all get to net zero, not just the big sophisticated players within the community, but everybody.
Yeah. So do you have a path forward for businesses? Like you said, it's more expensive for the businesses to utilize you. Are you thinking about having a rate chart for businesses that would want to adopt your services?
I mean, certainly large commercial customers can be part of the Cambridge Community Electricity Program. It's just that sometimes our prices aren't as competitive as what they can go out as an individual in the market. Yeah. But we are hoping that with the city has a newly updated ordinance called our Building Energy Use Disclosure Ordinance that actually puts our largest energy users and our largest greenhouse gas emitters on a plan for how they are going to be reducing their emissions through 2050. And so part of the reason that we're looking to add new renewable electricity through virtual power purchase agreements is we are thinking that perhaps some of our larger businesses want to join the aggregation program and actually take advantage of the fact that we've done some of that legwork for them and have this compliant renewable electricity coming in through the community electricity program. So perhaps more large businesses will be drawn to the program once they have to start meeting some of these greenhouse gas emission reduction requirements in the future.
Great. Pass the mic to James, please. My next question is for James, since we're talking about rooftop solar at this point. So James, first of all, you're a direct competitor, you have been, and I have to say you work at one company that I've never heard a bad thing about. And that's very uncommon, as you know, in our space, right? And I kind of like your business model. It's like you are putting people and community first, right? And something that really jumped out at me is, and when I was researching your company, there's a statement in there that talks about community over competition, right? And as you know, any solar company that starts itself, right, they want to get to economy of scales as quickly as possible, right? And oftentimes that leads to a race to the bottom, right? And they're gone, okay? You have managed to not take that approach as a company, and you've had kind of a slow growth mode. So can you talk to me a little bit more about what you mean and what about community over competition?
Sure. Thanks, everybody. So at Revision Energy, one of the things that I think differentiates us as a regional player is that we are full from sales, development, engineering, construction. So we build the projects that we sell and develop, that we engineer, and that's all done under the Revision Energy umbrella and roof. And one of the things that we do is we actually train up our own electrician fleet as well. As everybody in the space knows, we just don't have enough people in doing this work.
Yep.
And so one of the things that we've done is in our communities is build up folks that can go through an apprenticeship program with Revision Energy, that after their 4 years of work hours, they can sit and test to become an electrician. So we believe electricians will save the world, and so we're promoting that. And so it's the people in the community that are building the projects in the community, that talk to their community, that then, so it becomes a perpetual motion machine in a way, in that, you talk to one person, they know 10 people, and then they talk to 10 people, and it doesn't take a long time for us to be widespread. Like we found success. We started in Maine, moved to New Hampshire, and now we're in Massachusetts. And so it's been really exciting and fun to do that. So the community part really comes down to not just putting the glass rectangles up and helping people achieve renewable energy and the renewable energy goals. We also do the electrification, but it is also about building up the workforce that is going to be required to do all this work. And with 500 co-owners of a 100% employee-owned B Corp company,
Yep.
As you said, our reputation is really important to us, and so getting that reputation, you don't get that overnight. You talk the talk and walk the walk and do the work. And so, I think part of what makes us special is the fact that we do it all as a company and work together to do it all. And so that helps build up our community internally as well as externally.
Yeah, I think the fact that you are an employee-owned company means that everybody's committed, everyone's invested, right? So the message at the table coming from your salespeople, because they own it, is probably a lot better, okay, than what some people get from that natural salesperson who's trying to, get the sale, right? It's not a hard-pressed sale and stuff like that. So I think, what made you decide really to become an employee-owned company as well?
One of the founding principles of Revision Energy is to do business through good. So we were a B Corp first, which is a benefit corporation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a status that you can take, like a C Corp or an S Corp, but we took the B Corp, which requires us to have a third party come in and say, hey, are you the company that you say you are, through action? And then each year or every 2 years when we recertify, did you get better? So they don't let you kind of rest on your laurels. You have to get better every 2 years. So that constant chase of how we do better started this process. From there, we looked around and we said, well, business, can do good. How can business do best? And so one of the ways that we could do that is through employee ownership. There was a lot of talk, not that long ago, about how continues today, obviously, but economic inequality is real. The people that own businesses, typically are from families that own businesses and that perpetual motion machine there. This side of it, you can come in, you can be, any employee, so it's 100%, is going to own part of this company. And so they're growing their generational wealth for their family by being a part of our organization. And that business for good is why we decided to make this move.
Great business model. So let me ask all the employees, do they have a voice and a vote in the company?
No, absolutely not. 500 people, we'd never get anything done.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. So, accountability, we all hold each other accountable. The idea is that we're here for 40 years, as employees, and the joke that we always give is that, renewable energy is great and it looks good on a graph, but if it turns off in 5 years because, poor workmanship, those economics are terrible. Our business would suffer because we're getting those calls and having to go fix things. So really, the longevity piece of it is, how is my employee ownership mindset to make sure that everything that I do encourages that long-term growth of both the system I might be installing, the system I might be designing. Every action I take is that direction, so that everyone, like you said, kind of is pulling the same direction. So we don't need to all sit around and come up with the same, decide together as a 500-person company what we're going to do tomorrow.
Exactly. I like it. Thank you. You can pass the mic over to Jen. So Jen, well, when I was taking a look at FirstLight, many of you I met for the first time last Friday. So I did really kind of dig in, and I think you had a representative there on Friday, Claire. Okay, she was great. But she talked about Northfield Mountain. So could you tell us a little bit? I know it's the largest storage facility in New England. I personally have been in renewable energy for 12 years and I had never heard of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what it is and who's your customer base?
Yeah, so Northfield Mountain is the largest energy storage facility in New England. It's a pumped storage facility, so pumped hydro. It is out in Western Mass, and it uses a reservoir at the top of a mountain and turbines in the mountain, and it has a lower reservoir. So it basically is a water battery, and it's able to power up to 8 hours for almost 1,200 megawatts, which is about 1.3 million homes. So if you think about the size of the Vineyard Wind project that's being built offshore, it's larger than that in terms of its storage capacity. It was actually built originally in the 1970s to be a pair for nuclear. So the Vermont Yankee plant was going online, and a nuclear plant, once it's up and running, it needs to have a certain amount of power that is generated. It can't just cycle up and down. So that's originally why it was built. But now it's a perfect pair for that intermittent renewable energy. And so often nowadays, when the storage is all ramped up during the day, we're actually pumping that water and moving it up to the top of the mountain using that renewable excess solar on the grid. And then we're able to generate during peak times when the energy is needed. One of the aspects of this facility is that it has a 10-minute ramping capacity. So it can be up and running in 10 minutes or less. So it's one of those tools that ISO New England has when, Hydro-Quebec or somebody trips offline, they can call us up and within 10 minutes we can be full on and generating. So it is this kind of secret facility because it's been around for 50 years and not a lot of people know about it, but it is one of those really, really important pieces for getting us to our net zero goals. So when you have all of this intermittent renewable, you have this great solar, offshore wind comes online, but what are we going to do in terms of making sure that we have adequate storage? This is something that we have today that is at utility scale. So you asked about our customers, and actually we have a lot of municipal customers that we work with as well. So we do sell into the merchant market, but for example, with our municipal light plants in the state of Massachusetts, we have some work that we've done with Burlington Electric Department. So there's a lot that we can do in terms of selling that renewable electricity from both our storage, but also our traditional hydro plants. And so we support over 20 municipalities in Massachusetts. So having that what you talked about in terms of utility scale renewable energy that we can provide to municipalities, which, as we know, is, all of this is local, right? Everything is important, but it really happens on a local level with municipalities.
Cool. Well, Claire said on the call on Friday that it was underutilized.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I thought of Meghan, who was looking for power, right,
Yeah,
to
exactly.
power more and get to net zero quicker. Would Cambridge be a municipality that you would work with? Not that I'm trying to sell you the
Yes, of
but I'm
course.
curious.
No, it becomes challenging because it's such a large scale of power and it's intermittent power. So it is a battery, right? So that's why we're actually pairing and looking at the hybrid models that we talked about. So taking the, federally regulated FERC facilities that we have today and pairing them with hydro and solar and battery storage and then the pump storage, and trying to pair that so that we will have a clean, renewable product to sell municipalities and be available 24/7.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, now I'm going to get into, thank you all of you, for answering these questions. I'm going to get into some more general questions with you guys, okay? Some of you may have an answer to them and some of you may not. So my first question, are there any, you're all involved in renewable clean energy, supporting decarbonization. Are there any of you up here that are doing any specific clean energy initiatives that you're currently supporting at all? Other than what you all are currently doing, anything special that we should know about?
I don't know if it's special. Part of the city's Cambridge Energy Alliance programs is that we did launch Electrify Cambridge last year, and it really is sort of the city's version of kind of your two companies, right? We're really trying to provide our residents with free technical advice about how do they decarbonize their home or business, and actually set them up to have really confident conversations with people like you in the industry to say, okay, I know I'm going to be looking for a heat pump. I know I've seen some vetted installers that have great reviews. I know that this is the size system. They come into that conversation feeling like maybe a little bit more confident about signing a contract, right? Actually going forward. So we're really trying to provide that free technical assistance to residents and businesses to get them started, not only with just a single project, my furnace is going out, I want to get a heat pump, but also we're providing long-term decarbonization plans for anyone for free. So if you're I don't need a heat pump right now, but my furnace is 13 years old, really trying to get them a long-term plan for how they're going to get fossil fuels out of their home or their building. And I think that that's really going to be the key, right, of giving people that look forward, right? I'm a homeowner here in Cambridge. Most people don't generally do that kind of long-term planning, right? Your roof leaks, you get your roof fixed, right? You don't think well, I wonder if I should plan for my roof getting, a leak in it. So I think that is the challenge with decarbonization, right? It does have to be a longer roadmap and a little bit more forethought about what type of technology someone's going to adopt and when they're going to adopt it. And are they going to need to upgrade their electrical panel 5 years before they even add that heat pump, right? Because we have really old buildings here in Cambridge, and some people they don't even know that step is in front of them, right? Currently, all their outlets turn on. They don't know that, if they're going to put an induction stove in, they're going to need to upgrade the outlet, maybe even their panel, to support solar. So we're trying to give people, essentially the city's giving free advice to whoever will take it over how they either decarbonize one single system or their whole entire home or business. And I think that is where the public-private partnership comes in, right? Where we're trying to set people up to be able to, engage with Revision or engage with Thrive and feel confident moving forward with those projects because they've gotten a little bit of that, backing of the city of Cambridge saying, no, that you're doing the right thing and you can move forward. And don't worry about this. I know this is a big investment in your home or business, right? And we're kind of supporting that investment and supporting the time that they're taking to help the whole entire community reach our net zero goals.
I think we're all here are pioneers in this industry, right? We do know, we all have a purpose. We all have the same goal in common, is to decarbonize, right? Move away from fossil fuels. but there are many people in this country, right, that just don't see it that way, okay? This is for all of you to answer, okay? So what do you think we, okay, as pioneers could do, okay, other than what we're already doing? Is there any ideas that y'all have that we could speed up adoption, okay, on a grander scale for Simon's technology or Revision's technology with rooftop solar, or what Rick is doing, okay, or what Meghan has, okay, with the E-Steam here, and we got Northfield Mountain here, and what you're doing with the city electric, okay? Are there any ideas here that we think that we could do something collectively maybe, where we could speed up the process?
I would say that the most important thing that we can all collectively do is really make sure that folks understand that getting to net zero can be a phased approach. You don't have to make the decision that tomorrow afternoon you're going to be net zero. Tomorrow afternoon you're going to be 100% in. Tomorrow afternoon you're going to, reduce your energy usage by 50%. You can take things in a phased approach. And in fact, it's that phased approach that actually gets us all collectively to the goal line even faster, because it does that with the more folks that embrace that phased approach and say, you know what, like we talk to our customers all the time, who many of them they're looking at E-Steam and saying, I want to go 100%, but I don't want to do it all right now. Can I do it in phased approach? And one of the great things about E-Steam is yes, you can. You don't have to be 100% E-Steam tomorrow. You can go at 10, 20%. And then move on from there. And the reason why that's important, why it's critical, is because any movement towards that drives investment. Investment drives competition. Competition drives economics. And economics will drive faster adoption. Economics will drive a rapid adoption that gets us all to where we need to be quickly. And so I think that that's really, really critical. A lot of folks, again, they get kind of a little paralyzed, if you will, right? Because they're like, oh, geez, wow, the costs, or what do I do? And and then they just sort of stop, and then they don't do anything at all. When in fact, it's the little steps that you can take that matter a whole lot more than trying to take a big leap. So that's something that I think that we can all do collectively together.
Great. Anybody else James?
We talked about it. It's education is big. So many people that we talk to. So our surges are in the spring and the fall, and that's when people are flipping over their heating system. They're going, uh-oh, or they're getting ready to carry the window rattlers up the 3 flights of stairs, and they're saying, there's a better way. So yeah, thinking ahead, planning ahead is super critical. But so many people, when you call and talk to them, they say, "What's my electric panel? What are you talking about?" When you ask them, some simple questions about their home, or they look at their utility bill and they have no idea what the 18 different, line items are. Why is this 0.0003 cents here? What does that mean? What is that, which then I would say jumps into rate design and how our utilities are incentivized. They could be better partners, and I think that could be based on their business philosophy, or the way that we set them up. So they could help homeowners drive a lot of this. A lot of attention on Texas and their kind of their isolated grid, and how they're taking on the VPP, the virtual power plant initiative, with both thermostats as well as renewables plus storage. You start to allow consumers to participate. We all got smartphones as we get electric vehicles. How are we going to buy and sell and interact with the energy market? You can't do that today, and there's no technical reason you can't do that today, but the utilities aren't set up, their business models are not encouraged to allow us to do that. So I think those two things, educating people on how to, and then allowing them to participate in a real way in the energy market would drive a lot of adoption pretty quickly.
Cool.
Yeah, so before I joined FirstLight, I was actually at almost a decade at the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, which is the state's economic development agency, trying to help grow clean energy and that adoption. One of the things we really focused on, I think two points, education and economics are super important, but getting to people and helping them become comfortable with the technologies like a heat pump before their furnace breaks. You've got to build that is not the moment when it's freezing cold and your furnace is broken for an HVAC person to be in your home telling you about a technology you've never heard before and you can't trust. So I love that, Megan, you're doing this guided implementation and helping people, because I think that's really, you gotta have somebody you trust to help understand the technologies, understand the economics, and make sure that it works. And that longer term phased approach, I think, is really important for people to understand. So somehow we've got to touch all of our homeowners and all of our residents and really help walk them along the way, because it is not a one size fits all, for sure.
That's true. Simon, do you have any input?
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I think all the good points, education, phased approach, and the way to educate and make people comfortable with technology. I think what we see is also, I think there's other points to simplify the solution, not only in our own offerings, product offerings, but also as a solution together. So I cannot just say, oh, I'm the battery guy. I don't know solar, so you deal with the solar with another guy. So what if we can work together, create a pre-designed integrated solution that we can offer as a whole, then it's much easier for people to adopt a whole renewable solution together. Like what if heat pump paired with batteries, solar paired with heat pumps, all those things integrate together as a whole offering. So that will take a lot of the stress out of their consumer or customer's mind to make it easy to adopt. I think that's something we could work together as a team. Yeah.
Simon, this question is for you about your battery, okay? If there is, I meant to ask you this as a follow-up question the first time. If there is a solar system that already has a storage component to it, is your unit compatible with that? Can they work dually together?
We could, yes. So
Okay.
this all comes down to the design. We can use the battery as a backup battery. We can also use it as the storage to reduce electrical bill. So it depends on what you have, and we have flexible way to integrate into the existing system or new build.
Super cool. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for your card. We'll be talking. All right. My next question is more on a governmental level, right? Like in a state and local level that we work in here. What do you feel that our state governments, throughout New England, right? Because we all work in several states throughout New England. What could our governments do better to help us, okay, kind of move the needle on this and be more supportive of it beyond incentives?
Yeah, I just say, first of all, a lot of it is being done right now, which is fantastic, right? Ordinances like the Boedo ordinance in Cambridge and Berto in Boston, and other building performance standards that are taking effect and being studied for implementation across the United States are absolutely critical, because it drives momentum, it drives movement towards that, right? It's not just let's talk about it, it's we're going to actually take action. But I think that the other piece, and this is the critical one, right, is that government, we need government to keep up with the pace of change, especially with technology and adoption of new technologies in different ways of using existing technologies together in order to be able to advance our move towards a more sustainable future. And the way that we have to do that is what Meghan said, which is public-private partnerships. We have to absolutely be connected at the hip. It's not good enough anymore for folks in government to be learning about stuff way after the fact, when regulations have already been written and policies have already been put together, because it just takes time to get through that policy making process, that regulatory process. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to stymie the pace of innovation, right, from companies that are looking to make advancements out there in clean tech and in sustainability, because they're looking and saying, well, geez, by the time that we get government to kind of come along with this, it's our investors are going to just be tired and worn out. So we have to keep pace. Second, we need government to really help us be able to make changes to those regulations and enable permitting for new infrastructure faster. I think one of the great things that's in the climate bill right now that's sitting out on Beacon Hill is that it is very much focused on how can we expedite permitting, how can we make it go faster, and trying to knock down some of the barriers in a smart, thoughtful way. That needs to be done on the state level. It absolutely needs to be done on the federal level, because without that, trying to get to 2050 is going to prove extraordinarily challenging.
Yeah, so even though I'm in local government, I would say, there's lots of things that local government can't do. We have no control over local building code, so we can't just tell people, guess what? You're not gonna get a natural gas furnace anymore in Cambridge. It's still available in the market. And so I spend, almost all of my time, trying to convince people not to buy the natural gas furnace and to instead explore other options. And I think that what state government and really can be doing is helping cities make those not an option anymore. Through the building code or through other ways of just saying, what, it's make my job a little easier. I'm just going to try to help people find the right heat pump for themselves, as opposed to, having them evaluate a gas furnace, a this, a that, and a heat pump. And so, I think that that's where the state could really just push ahead and help local governments like us focus on what we can do best, which is, the free technical assistance, the sort of trusted education, the public-private partnerships, rather than just convincing people, please don't lock yourself in for 20 more years to a natural gas furnace. And so, yeah, I think we're seeing some of that. The Conservation Law Foundation has a petition, up about getting to zero emission appliances in homes and businesses. And I think those are the kinds of things that will really allow local government to move all of our homeowners and our business owners and our renters and everyone forward towards the kinds of buildings that we need. Because I always say, I have an English degree, and I always say people are like, what are you talking about? It's we're all science fiction writers, right? We're trying to write a future that's completely different than the place that we live in right now. We're we have this mountain that has storage in it, right? And we have this company that has, every employee has equity in it, and we have this district energy system that's going to use this natural resource of the river. We have this battery that's the size of your dog, whatever, right? That's the future. That is almost science fiction, right? And so I think that that's the other thing that we can all be working together on is really painting a very clear an extremely positive picture of what the future looks like if we move our communities in this direction.
Very good. Anybody else?
I would say certainly the climate bill that hopefully is going to be passed today, but has two pieces in it that are really important. One is that siting and permitting reform, which is it's really, really hard to build new infrastructure anywhere, but it is really hard to build new energy infrastructure. And that piece will really make a big difference. The other is the energy storage procurement language that's in that bill that will allow storage facilities like Northfield Mountain to compete on a large scale and to have, just like offshore wind, have a state procurement that will allow that facility and really that existing infrastructure to be fully utilized. And so I think if we're going to meet our climate goals, we've got to hit all ends, but we absolutely have to take our existing infrastructure and utilize that to its fullest, just like Vicinity is doing too.
I'll maybe put a stamp on it and tell a story. I won't say which town, but they were building a parking garage, and as part of their new energy code was, hey, 50% of this has to be electric vehicle charging infrastructure built into it. So that was, all right, we'll do that. So we get together, we put together our design, go to the town, and the fire safety office says, absolutely not. You're not putting that many electric vehicles in this garage. So you have the city saying, you got to do this, and then you get the city that says you absolutely can't do this, and then we're staring at each other. So to put a kind of a fine point on, we need one set of rules instead of 359 different sets of rules.
Yeah. So we experience a lot of the same things, right? We always lean into storage when we're selling solar to people's homes, to residents and stuff. And the building departments and the fire codes are always the biggest obstacle, and they're very resistant to make change. They have a fear that we're going to incinerate somebody's home with the battery if it puts inside. So I think the restrictive building codes, are kind of limiting us a little bit. And I'm just, I'm curious how, not us, but governments could help the build, because they're local, right? The permitting's are local governments. What can the local government do to these building departments and fire departments to encourage them to move towards adoption and not be so fearful?
I think we talked about the state taking the lead
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
saying, look, this is going to be the rules of the road instead of everyone picking and choosing their own.
Yes.
I think we're all like on pins and needles waiting for this bill to be passed and to
Yes.
see how that's going to
Yes.
actually hit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I just add to that along that same theme, right, is that one of the things when you look all throughout the world is that there is unfortunately not a lot of uniformity in standards when it comes to clean tech, calculations of emissions, all sorts of things. So the leadership from the state is absolutely essential. Who knows when we'll get that, coming from the federal government. But at the state level, at the local level, to be uniform, like for example, the cities of Cambridge and Boston, writing regulation that they already are that's very similar to one another, right? I mean, it's in lockstep, which is great because otherwise you just create confusion, right? If you're a building owner that has one building in Cambridge and one in Boston, if it's not the same, then it just becomes very confusing. But they're doing a great job. We need more of that. We need the state to step in and help put guardrails around what those standards are until someday that the federal government comes in and creates something that we can all do.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, I work in the Office of Sustainability, I don't work in the building department, and sometimes I'm surprised at the questions that come my way where I'm like, wait, what did the fire department say to you? So I think that, we've been talking about education and getting people comfortable with technology, and that's not just the homeowner or the business owner or the landlord. I mean, that really, some people in government have been I've been in my job for 15 years in the city of Cambridge, right? Some people have been here 20, 30, 40 years, and they need some internal, and so I think, companies and organizations that do have new products, new technologies, as sad as it is to say, that there's going to be an education component within those local permitting and fire and all those departments. I mean, and the other piece of it is that, here, the city adopted, was part of the fossil fuel demonstration pilot program. We're one of the 10 cities and towns. And our building department people, we have a fairly large building department, there's a lot of stuff that gets built here, but they dedicated one staff member to just try to understand exactly how the fossil fuel free demonstration project buildings will get inspected, will get built, will get permitted. And that's a lot for other local, in Cambridge, maybe it's easy to have one person become the expert on this kind of new building code. But in other smaller cities and towns, you might have just one person sitting in that building office, right? And they're trying to keep, it's a little bit of, building the car while it's running or whatever that, expression is. So I don't have a clear answer for that, but I think there is some level of just investment in educating around these new technologies that has to happen at the local level with the local officials, because they're the ones that are gonna, unfortunately be like, I don't understand this. I guess it's not safe, So it's not just the homeowners and the residents and the building owners that need to get caught up. And it's tough when it's something like a fossil fuel demonstration project where there's only 10 other cities or towns working on it, right? You're kind of, again, all your building inspectors are trying to do something that maybe there's only 10 other building inspectors, trying to do across the state. So I think more investment, again, maybe from the state level in how do we train our building inspectors? How do we get uniformity amongst the fire department around all of these technologies would really be very helpful.
Cool. All right. Oh yeah, Simon, take it.
Oh, just a little bit more comment.
Yeah.
On the code, because I kind of witnessed the code on batteries developing. So when I was selling lithium batteries to data centers 10 years ago, there was no code at all. I was just selling it and introducing it. Of course, that was people call me crazy. This is explosive batteries. How can you sell this? Right? The similar feeling when the first automobile was introduced, people were rather riding horses. Of course, the safer. The gasoline is dangerous, of course, the disaster.
Yep.
So it's very similar. So the whole thing evolved along the way. There are actually code out there, NFPA code, or AHGs are adopting the code. And there are tests that specify to test battery systems. So if you pass the test, it's very safe to use. The code is already very, very strict. I think to the point it's kind of silly to pass that test. But if you did that test and pass it, it's very safe for a fire department to adopt that. So that's an education thing for the fire department to actually just use the code without adding their own imaginary risk or concerns. But there are already code and tests up there for people to adopt. There are also new technologies not coming up. Sodium-ion batteries are much safer. Solid-state batteries, so it's are developing, make it safer systems for people to do energy storage with. And also you can use outdoor battery packs instead of indoor. Right? If indoor is a concern, then why don't we put it outdoor? So there's a lot of short-term and long-term solutions to do it. I think this shouldn't be a barrier for us.
Yeah, I think part of the outdoor storage thing is a lot of the batteries are temperature sensitive, right? Like, I'm not gonna name any brands, but we know who they are, right? Where you can't put them outside, right?
You can't put a air conditioned chamber, heating and cooling. So those are patchy but easy to do.
Yep.
In the short term.
Yep. Okay, cool. I don't really have any more questions, but what I do want to do is just kind of leave it open for you guys if we missed anything that you want to talk about. Like about your own businesses, it's an opportunity for you to kind of express that. So if any of you have any other thoughts or want to say something that I didn't ask, I pass it right around and go. Anybody? Rick?
Sure. No, I just say real quick that I know a lot of our online viewers are probably folks that are in the clean tech industry. They're working for businesses that are looking at and researching and developing ways in order to be able to decarbonize our building stock. And I would just say to all of them to keep at it. Keep at it because this is something that requires it to go at the pace that we're trying to move at here, that we have to move at, that our climate and the situation that we're all seeing every day. I mean, these record-setting temperatures, the fact that 2024 could literally be the warmest year on record globally, it demands that we all be involved in it. So no matter what idea you have, no matter how crazy you think that it is, don't throw it out. I will tell you that if I were to get back in the time machine and go back 10 years ago and somebody were saying that we were going to put in a 6-story, 25,000 square foot heat pump complex over here on the Charles River, I would have looked at them like they were nuts. But here we are, and this is what we're doing. And because of a lot of people have been very focused on trying to overcome the obstacles that previously existed for it in order to make it not only technically feasible, but economically feasible. So that way our customers and future customers can look at it and say, that's something that will enable me to make this change without, again, like we talked about earlier, being paralyzed, right? With fear of making any change at all. That's what we need folks to do. So for everybody that's out there that's working on that, for the companies that are already doing it, I mean, we all have to be rowing in the same direction. We all got to be pushing because it's a big mountain to climb.
Huge. Yes, it is.
Echo Rick on the economic viable. I think technology has been advanced so much that a lot of costs are going down dramatically that become economically viable. It's not just for the sake of saving, reducing carbon footprint and being green. Back 10 years back, yes, we're trying to do that at all costs. The government has to subsidize it and make sure this can be used, but it's not economically viable yet many years ago. Now we're to the point that it's really viable. For example, for our battery generator, for example, being used in movie production. So they're driving clean mobile power initiative in the whole movie industry. So we're working with Netflix and the Hollywood studios just to use a clean power, which is quiet as well. For movie production. That's pretty important. The noise is a big thing. So of course they're driving the carbon reduction on the generators they've been using for the movie production, but they find out actually using battery base it's cheaper too compared to generators. How much fuel you save. That's not just carbon, but also money too. So it turns out it's 2-year payback time for them to adopting a battery-based clean energy. So this is very impressive as well. And even for Southeast Asia, we've seen Indonesia islands. There are 20,000 islands there. People running generators on that 24/7. So even by introducing this battery alternative together with solar panels to pair with their existing generator systems. But you use solar and battery when there are sunny days and get the clean power. By cutting down that much fuel, the payback time is less than 3 years. So that's pretty important, and for us to know that this is already viable, and helping people save money too, and on top of saving carbon. Yeah. So I think that's want people to know about this thing. It's not intimidating. It's not expensive.
Yeah. Meghan?
Thank you.
Close.
Yeah, I think from the local level, the nut that we have a really hard time cracking is this multifamily housing and multifamily mixed-use buildings.
Mhm.
So, and I think there's a lot of solutions that we've talked about here, and they all need to be on the table. But when it comes to financing, Cambridge is not full of single-family homes. There's not generally just one decision maker for most buildings. I mean, there are some like that. I think there's about 9,000 single-family homes in the city, and that means there's thousands of more units of housing and business space that needs to figure out how do we decarbonize this space that has multiple owners, multiple uses, both commercial uses with apartments above it, and I think that it's been easier to create programs for single family homes or standalone businesses. And it really, and we see that in some of the statewide programs as well. They're very designed for that. And so I think that's kind of going to be the next step when we're talking about like how do cities actually decarbonize, right? Is that we're going to need more creative financial tools, and like similar to CPACE, but I think we're going to need more than just CPACE, commercial PACE, to have these investments in decarbonization. Stick with the building or stick with the building, regardless of who the owner is, regardless of who the tenant is. So I would really encourage, not just the technological innovation that you were, giving a shout out for, but really the financial innovation for how to crack this nut of, condominium buildings and landlord-owned buildings where they have, very low utility bills and the split incentive there. All of that stuff we're gonna have to figure out if we're gonna get these technologies into buildings, or else, it's just gonna be kind of impossible for those buildings to adopt without a great, cost to one person.
Yep. James?
So one of the things that we have we've been investing in is smaller community solar programs based in the urban environment. So doing carports, doing rooftop, where you might have a local electrical need that is less than what that roof or parking lot would need for a solar canopy or a solar installation. And so what do you do with that excess? Right? For us to we talked about permitting and interconnection and all the soft costs that go into these projects, to do that once and spread it over more solar, electric vehicle charging, all the technology that needs to get upgraded, the electric panels and doing all that at once, having the storage available is way less costly than if we do it at a piecemeal or add it over time. But then it's figuring out who that other off-taker will be. And so as we get to that last mile of decarbonization, or probably the last few hundred miles, but we're working our way really, really hard at that. But those are the types of things that we're really excited to deploy. The other thing that I would just love to say is that, I as somebody that enjoys a lot of this technology myself, it makes life better for people. And I think that's something that is really often missed when people think about this transition. We talked about absolutely we should not be selling 1980s technology to new homes that are being built or new this fossil fuel burning technology that's been around for a while. We should be using 21st century technology, but they feel like that's being thrust upon them and that they're losing out on some aspect of their quality of life. And then if you use an induction stove, how much quicker and smoother and better your cooking is when you don't have to go to a gas station any longer. I don't know who loves their gas station, their local gas station, and likes getting out in January to pump. Versus when you get home, you plug in, or you get to your street parking, you plug in. And then it's fully charged when you get into it every single day. It's preheated. It's pretty wonderful. Heat pumps, again, lighting up those window rattlers, taking them down, having that air conditioning available. Unfortunately, we need it more often. And then I've been waking up every morning smelling, the brush fires, all the extreme weather, the hardening of our grid. It's, you look around, you drive around Massachusetts, you drive around New England, we're not gonna put these electric power lines underground. And so the hardening, is really gonna be on a local level. It's gonna be the microgrids, it's gonna be the pairing up, and it's gonna be local. There's been great stories, terrible stories, but some great stories coming out of the tragedies in Florida, where some of the communities had invested in, solar, battery storage as an emergency backup, and they have weathered, these extreme events really, really well, versus others that aren't in that situation, that are going weeks and weeks and weeks without access to electricity. So we are not just improving our planet's ability to handle the climate crisis, but we're also actually making everyone's individual life, I think, a lot better. And so experiencing, going on the racetrack, driving around, seeing what these vehicles are about, is really important. And I would just encourage people to if you are enjoying the technology, let people know how much better it is than, the 1980s technology that everyone's been using the last 40, 50 years.
Yeah. Jen?
Just to partner on that innovation, that the new technology innovation is so important, and we're gifted that we're here in Massachusetts, where we have these wonderful hubs of innovation and technology and research that are happening. But it's not just that innovation in new technologies, it's the financing innovation, it's the innovation in business models. How do you pivot your business model? How do you think about things like Vicinity's done, or like we've done in terms of getting municipal customers? How do you pivot your business model and think differently so we can all get to net zero faster? And that's one of the pieces that I just think is so critical in terms of how do we get there, but also we have to widen the tent. We've got to think about this more holistically. So including finance professionals, health professionals, right? The climate crisis is impacting everyone. And for so many years, we've been kind of in our little, clean energy climate bubble. And you see the same faces at a lot of the events. And so widening that tent and having more diverse and new ideas come in with financing, with healthcare providers, et cetera.
So I want to thank all of you for, being participants on this panel and being a part of the Mass Clean Energy Week. As it's, from my understanding, it has been a hit, and will be around next year as well. You guys are definitely all pioneers, okay? And should be very proud that you are those pioneers leading this charge, okay? And to decarbonization. So I just want to applaud all 5 of you on this panel, okay, for the work and effort you do, and together we will get there. So thank you very much.
Thank you.